Welcome to Real Conversations with Patricia Baranovsky-Schneider, the podcast that takes you on a journey around the world to meet some of the most inspiring and accomplished individuals. Discover their stories, uncover invaluable business lessons from their paths to success, and gain exclusive insights on how to apply their strategies to elevate your life and business.
Hello, and welcome to Real Conversations with Patricia. I'm your host, Patty Baranowski-Schneider. Today, I'm joined by Alina Wilson, medspa owner and author of Thoughtful Aging, Restoring Honor to the Aging Process. So welcome, Alina. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm, as you said, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business owner, I'm a mother, a grandmother, and I'm very passionate about helping women really see their own true beauty and learning to look in the mirror and love who they see just as they are.
Right. I think that's great because it is true. It's kind of like, a lot of my friends and colleagues and were always so much younger. And then after a while, it's kind of like, okay, I'm getting the aches and the pains, the wrinkles, the grays. I'm like, I can't keep up with you anymore. But it is, you have to just acknowledge that, you know what, but I'm in a better place now. And that's, so I'm glad that you're helping people with that. So tell us, what inspired you to write Thoughtful Aging, Restoring Honor to the Aging Process? And what message do you hope readers take away from it?
I've had this book in my head for a few years, and in the business that I do, so just for people who may not know, a medical spa is a place where you would go to have skincare services or laser treatments or services. We all would know the name Botox or, dermal fillers, things that you can do to minimize wrinkles and restore volume. And so under this umbrella, I've had thousands of conversations with women over the past 18 years that all seem to have one common thread running through them, and that's this pursuit of anti-aging. And that term never resonated with me, ever. And it came to me just a few years ago, why can't we shift this paradigm from anti-aging, which is inherently unattainable, it says it, in the word itself, anti, to something that we can actually achieve. And so that's what I call thoughtful aging. And really, it centers around approaching beauty from a place of self-acceptance and compassion. And then when you choose to do things, or if you choose to do things, whether it's buying medical grade skincare and creating your own routine at home, or pursuing treatments through a clinic like mine or a dermatologist, you're doing it from a place of want versus a place of need.
It's tricky because every commercial and everything out there is selling you that, you could change the clock overnight and you could look 25 again. And it's funny because I have a friend of mine who sells all these creams, and I've seen those same pictures that they show in doctors' offices and other creams. I'm like, you just buy these generic pictures and say, look at how this person did. And I don't want to say it doesn't work for everybody. I know everybody's different because some things that might work for you probably won't work for me. But it's basically you're selling people a pretty shady bill of goods because you're not going to turn the clock. I'm not going to wake up looking like I'm 16 tomorrow. I don't care what cream I use, but people need to accept it and have realistic expectations, so I'm glad because I do know using, certain, high-end creams can help a lot. But again, it's, talking to someone who knows this stuff can guide you better rather than have these, over-the-counter commercials that you're seeing.
Well, it works because we, AARP did a study of over 7,000 women, and the number one concern that they all had was reducing signs of aging. And so we have this whole industry, anti-aging industry, that plays off of our concerns because we have a society that has been built around looking younger as an attainable or achievable goal, as the goal. And so it works. But you don't have to spend a lot of money to get great results, and that's where self-education comes in.
For sure. Wow. So now in your book, you discuss the concept of beyond aging. So how can society shift its mindset to embrace aging as a positive journey rather than a battle to stay youthful?
Thoughtful aging is really centered around 5 principles. Cultivating a growth mindset is the first one. You have to be willing to see things differently. When you're standing in front of the mirror, most people, every woman that I know, and myself included, we're automatically wired to look for faults. You wake up and you say, oh, there's another wrinkle, or I don't like this, or I don't like that. That is simply just looking at yourself. And when you're looking, you're judging. When you're truly seeing, then you move beyond looking and into a space of accepting. When you're seeing, you're accepting. And so that starts with cultivating a growth mindset, choosing to see something different, and then embracing curiosity. So you have to be curious about what you don't know.
Right.
If you're looking in the mirror, you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh, I hate this, or I hate that, or I don't like this, or I need to fix that, right? Get curious about why. Where does that thought process come from? Are you choosing that thought process, or is that just simply hardwired in from subliminal messaging that we get every time we open our phones or turn on the TV?
Yeah.
Right. Once you get curious about those things that you think and that you feel, there may be a tendency to gravitate toward guilt or shame, or feeling, something is wrong. There's nothing wrong, but that's where self-acceptance and compassion come in. And really being willing to be open to saying, okay, I've thought this way for the last 15 years. I can see how that's really held me back in a lot of ways, but I'm going to choose self-acceptance now and compassion for what I didn't know.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
And then the
that's
next step beyond that would be to stay mindful and grounded.
Right.
So when you choose self-acceptance and compassion, then the next step beyond that is really working to stay in the present moment, staying mindful and grounded, and reminding yourself of the beauty that's around you that we can access during any given moment of the day if we choose to. And then finally being proactive and responsible. And that goes beyond just what you see in the mirror. That touches on health and wellness and aging just in general, beyond our reflection. If you go to the doctor and you're having menopause symptoms and they tell you, well, that's just part of getting old, you do not have to accept that. Educate yourself, learn what your options are, and pursue those options.
Right. No, that's all interesting. And I always admire, women are so critical of themselves. And I always admired like men, women will dissect every little thing, every little, inch of fat on them and every little wrinkle, gray hair, whatever. And men are just like, no, so this is me, it look great, and that's it. And it's like, wow, I wish I had, your self-esteem, because women are so opposite. And I think it's just, again, embedded in us for centuries before. Women are supposed to look beautiful. Women are supposed to, just be the best and be young and be beautiful, like, the goddesses back in the day. And it's like, it doesn't work that way, but I guess it could to an extent.
Yeah, and I wonder about that sometimes with men. I think maybe they just don't talk about it like we do. They're not going to show up for coffee time at 8 a.m. at Joe's Cafe and talk about how much they weigh.
Yeah.
They don't do that. We do that. They don't do that. But I think they still think it sometimes or feel it sometimes. They just don't talk about it.
It's very possible.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned the number one beauty standard in your book. So how does this standard shape women's self-perception, and what steps can they take to redefine beauty for themselves?
Well, I think we get to choose. There's what society tells us is the number one beauty standard, and that's staying youthful, looking youthful, looking young. We can choose to not buy into that narrative any longer, just by simply acknowledging that that exists and there is reality to that. But then also deciding to step outside of that box and learning to, again, not just look at our reflection, but really see beyond our reflection into who we are as people, and cultivating a life built around virtues and honoring the wisdom that age brings us. Anyone who's living with their eyes open can tell you that there's so much depth to life and relationships. And there's also no end to the amount that we can learn about ourselves and through relationships.
Right. No, it's all, 100% because we are multi-layered, species, and we just always look at the focus, and there's a lot more to us. But like you say, just people don't know.
Mhm.
Now
Yeah.
your book outlines the 5 principles of thoughtful aging. So can you share how cultivating a growth mindset plays a role in embracing aging with dignity?
Sure. So I can tell you that when I was growing up, I grew up in a very conservative Christian household. So I was indoctrinated to believe certain things. And I operated within that paradigm until I don't know, I was in my mid-teens when I really started questioning things. In this example, cultivating a growth mindset meant that I was courageous enough to push back against things that didn't make sense.
Right.
Anytime that we, um, anytime that we prioritize another person's feelings over truth, and we all know truth. Anytime we prioritize another person's feelings over truth, we're giving a little bit of ourselves away. So we can start by cultivating a growth mindset just by getting curious again about why we think the way we think and where those messages came from.
No, you make 100% sense because, I was talking to somebody else the other day about how generation after generation, people don't realize like what you were told as a kid or how you were made to feel. Like in my era, it was kids are seen and not hold. You do as do as you're told. You don't question anything. You're never, not to say you're never good enough, but you're supposed to be perfect because if you're perfect, it makes me a perfect parent, blah, blah, blah. And this is ingrained in your head. And then you get your next generation. So with my kids, there were many things that I said, I'm not going to do that to them. But so much other stuff was just normal for me. So you pass it on, and little by little, it might take decades before little by little things start fading away, but you're just passing these bad. So if you're wise enough to realize, okay, this is an issue, and where am I getting this from? And this was embedded in me, and I need to change that, you're way ahead of most people. So, I mean, it's very important to do that. And most of us don't because we just go with the habit of what we know, and it doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah, I know that in the household that I grew up in, there's another example. There just was no expression of emotion. It was almost as if emotion was dangerous. There was fear and anger were the two things that were most often expressed. My mom was just very loving, and she would hug us, and tuck us in at night, but not from my dad at all. And even still to this day, that's really, really hard for him. Well, I became a parent at a very young age, and I recognized that as I was raising my children, I didn't naturally gravitate once they got past a certain, the baby stage. Once they really started talking back and giving me their own opinions, I didn't that naturally wanting to go and be with them and hug them. I kind of just fell into the pattern that my parents had exhibited when I got to that age. And it took my children coming to me to say, Mom, I need a hug, for me to go, oh, wow, okay, I'm not doing that.
Right.
Why am I not doing that? Where is this coming from? I'm not consciously choosing this, but here it is presenting itself.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah. See, like in my household, my parents were loving, but they were not zero emotion. We never got hugs, you knew they loved you just because, they feed you, you have a roof over your head, but there was no connections like that. So that was normal for me. And again, I did the same with my kids because what do I know? That's normal. That's how it is. And like now, like people always, I see all these jokes about grandparents, where'd this person come from? But it's like now you realize the mistakes, and I try to make it up with the grandkids because I'm like, oh my God, love them to death, hug them, kiss them, and just want to be. But it's like I didn't do that with my own kids because back then it was normal. Like, what do I know? So I get it. But yeah, back to the beauty part. People need to understand and realize, and I guess you're helping them, guide them to wake up and see this, which is, a huge thing because you could, if people start accepting themselves, it's not just the beauty that comes out. There's a lifetime of emotions and, family events and whatnot that you're opening up because you're no longer, secluded.
One of the questions that I ask readers in my book is, if I asked you to name all of the things that you loved, how long would it take you to name yourself?
Probably last on the list, if at all. Yeah. People say, I love this food, I love this speech, I love it. They're never going to say themselves. So, but very few, I would say. Yeah. Wow.
Right.
So now, how could women overcome the societal pressures highlighted in your book, such as those imposed by social media and the beauty industry?
Making a conscious decision to recognize it for what it is and not participate in it. So if you find yourself scrolling through Instagram or TikTok and you're looking at other perfectly curated women and you're feeling like there's a deficit, or like you're not good enough, or like there's something wrong with you, then recognize that that's not true. And so maybe it's time to limit the amount of time that you spend putting yourself in a position where you can draw those comparisons that are not based in reality. Every person has a place here on earth. We all belong here. Dr. Kurt Thompson, he's an author, he's a physician, he said, we are all born into this world looking for someone, looking for us. And we remain in this mood of being for the rest of our lives. And there's truth in that, because we are designed for community and we want to belong. But can we do that in a way that allows us to navigate society with the understanding that it's based on superficiality in many cases, but not allow it to make us superficial?
It's a little tricky, though. I mean, back in the day, I was going into modeling way back when, and I'm 5'9.5". At that point, I was 135 pounds. I was not heavy in any way, shape, or form. Back then, I got told, you're now, back then, we didn't have big models and whatnot. I was told I was too fat to be a model, that maybe I should start losing some weight. That led to anorexia, bulimia. I mean, this is what, society was inbreeding in people. And, obviously, that was way back in the day, but I'm glad now that, the generations are changing. There's big modeling now. And it's acceptable. You have older models now, even at back in the day, the airlines, you would always have that stick figure who was the, working the airport. Now you have everyday people, and it's normal now. So I'm glad that things are slowly changing. It took many years, but I'm glad that to see, like I always say with this new generation, it's kind of like, oh my God, they have something to say about everything. But some of it's in a good way because they're making change now. So I think was long overdue, but I'm glad that slowly but surely, and things like your book will help people to start opening their eyes and say, you're okay just how you are. So I commend you all for doing that.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, chapter 9 of your book explores the true source of our beauty. So how do you define true beauty, and what role does inner self-acceptance play in achieving it?
There's an essence in all of us. There's a quiet, still, small space in all of us that has been untouched by negativity, by trauma. It exists. It's the spark that makes us who we are. The true essence of our beauty lies within acknowledging and recognizing that, realizing that if we feel any kind of disconnect from ourselves, we have an opportunity to get back in touch with our bodies, to make that mind-body connection something that we strive for on a daily basis by honoring our body's signals, by realizing that that place within us is where love resides. And love really is the true source of our beauty. It's where all things good live. It's what allows us to create moments of connection throughout the day with others. I don't know if you've ever walked outside and just felt the breeze on your face and it gave you pause, and you look up at the sky and you see the sun and you feel the warmth on your cheek. You are standing in a moment of beauty at that moment, because everything else has left your mind, has left your thoughts, and you're appreciating yourself for your place in the world and the world around you. We have the opportunity to create moments of beauty throughout the day if we choose to stop long enough to do so. And every time we do, we add just a little bit more confidence to what we bring to the world around us as who we are. Just a little bit more confidence to say what we're thinking, to use our voice, to stand in who we are and the essence of who we are, as beautiful as it is, without change.
It's funny because so many people make excuses too, where they'll say, oh, I live over here, I'm in the middle of nowhere, or it's always rainy, but they always make excuses. It's funny, I belong to so many photography groups, like on Facebook and Twitter and all that. And just because I'm not there doesn't mean I can't enjoy the beauty. I love looking at the sunrises, the sunsets, the beautiful flowers, the animals, the kids playing. For 5 minutes, I could just look at something real quick and I'm like, oh, it just makes me happy because you can find it. You just have to, like you say, take a moment, pause. And it is beautiful. Like, you ever see somebody who's just negative all the time? I don't want to say they're ugly, like appearance wise, they're just ugly just in general, because it's like you can find something to be happy about. And it just, you like light up literally. You're like, wow, look at that. Anybody who's happy, they just have this glow about them because it's just that positivity that reaps from them. So, I agree 100%. You just have to realize you have to take a moment to find it.
And the more we learn about ourselves, the more we start getting curious about ourselves, the more easily we'll recognize those dysregulated people. We won't be drawn into their dysregulation because we'll know, I recognize that. I know what that energy is. I know where this is going. And I'm just going to stand right here and let them do that. And I'm just going to be okay right here where I am until they're all done.
Yeah, get that little distance. I just don't even like being around negative people because the energy is just so toxic. And I'm like, I would rather be around like happy people and just, contagious,
Yeah.
Now tell us, in thoughtful aging, you discuss the importance of reclaiming beauty in your reflection. So what practical advice do you have for women struggling with their self-image as they age?
You're always going to have opportunities to be distracted and compare yourself with others. We all do. And I know that for myself, it's not like there's a magic formula. This is not a linear path. There are no boxes to check to make it work. It's a daily choice to, if you look in the mirror or you think of yourself in a negative way, for me personally, when that happens, I don't feel bad that I'm doing that or guilty that I'm doing that. I just acknowledge it and then counter every negative thought with 2 positive thoughts and stop and take a moment and utilize breath to get my body centered again and get my mind off of whatever spiral I might be going down so that I can take a step back and return to the present moment and try again, because it's all about trying again in life. I used to think when I was younger that life was just a series of problems to solve. And that got me through a very survival-based period of life where I was a single mother to 3 kids and trying to figure it out on my own. And so I had to think of things that way. Life is just a series of problems to solve. Okay, I can do this, I can do this. But with age and maturity, one of the blessings has been retrospectively looking back and saying, okay, there's so much more to it. I recognize that that's who I was and that's what I was capable of then. But age has brought me so much more wisdom now. How can I integrate who I was and what I knew then into the person that I am now? And who do I want to be in 5 years? And really taking accountability for where I'm going, where I've been and where I'm going.
Well, I agree 100%. It's, you're making that conscious choice and, doing the reflection, because people don't realize like somebody told me every morning when you wake up, what's 5 things you're grateful for. I haven't even rolled out of bed, but it's like, okay, I woke up this morning, my lights are on, there's roof up, like you can find things. And the breathing, like I notice sometimes, like even when I'm trying to go to sleep, you don't realize how much your mind is going. And I'm like thinking, oh my God, did I do this or had that? It's all problems. And they just, I remember going to a hypnotist at one point. They would have me do these breathing exercises just to calm your mind. And it just was like all the weight got taken off me. So it's all part of the whole big package, but you're 100% right.
Somatic therapy, that falls under the umbrella of somatic therapy, where you really, really learn to understand your body signals and what your body's language is. If we all have our own unique body language. Like for me, when I feel anxious, like you're talking about, in the morning or in the evenings when you're laying in bed and your mind is going, I feel that anxiety in my chest. Or if I'm in a conversation and I'm feeling suppressed, or like I want to say something, but I don't have the confidence to say it, my throat will actually tighten. Those things have happened my whole life. I just never recognized it. Once I got back in touch with my body's signals and learned my body's language, it became much easier for me to be able to take a step back and use breath work to say, oh, okay, if my throat's getting tight, I actually probably do need to really speak up right now, because what I have to say is important. And if I don't say it, I will walk away from this missing an opportunity to learn more about myself.
I like how you twisted that, but you're 100% right. But recognizing it, like you said, is the key.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now, how can women foster healthier relationships with themselves and others, as outlined in the chapter on relationships, staying connected as we stay true to ourselves?
We are beings designed for community. And in the age that we're in right now, I think through no fault of our own, just lack of awareness, we have traded community for the illusion of connectivity. So we spend all of our time on, I shouldn't say that, that's a very general statement. A lot of us spend a lot of time on social media. And I know what my cousin's doing over on the East Coast, and I know what my friend in California is doing. And I feel a sense of community with them, but the connection isn't there to support it, because it's a lot different than reaching out and saying, how are you doing? Or getting girlfriends together to have coffee on a Saturday afternoon because we haven't seen each other because we're so busy during the week. Community is so vital to our growth. It's how we learn from each other. It's what keeps us from feeling isolated or being isolated in our day-to-day lives. And it just requires a little bit of effort to really reach out to others and be the catalyst for change through community.
It's funny with the community, because like I've been doing the remote work long before COVID. And, I used to work in Manhattan. So I was, took the train in the morning, chit chat with people on the train, go to the gym, talk to people at work, and now from home, I went from my bedroom to my home office, and I was here by myself. So I would go at lunchtime and just walk for like a good mile, stop at the soup. I was talking to everybody, but I was like, I just need people connection, because and they said that with COVID, when most people, started working from home, they were getting depressed and whatnot, because we are human beings that need to connect with other people. And you're right, you learn from everybody. Like, that's why I love doing these podcasts. I talk to people everywhere and I'm learning from everybody. And I'm like, this is so cool. I didn't know this, I didn't know that. And, we're just having conversations, but people benefit from that. And, so I agree 100%.
Well, we have a thing called mirror neurons. And when we're in conversation with someone else, mirror neurons are constantly firing. And if you see someone holding a puppy, you feel the same feeling that they're experiencing, because we all know what that feels like. If you're holding a sleeping baby, there's a sense of peace that comes over us when we see a sleeping baby. Those are mirror neurons that are responding and reacting to the world around us. Those are positive examples of how we respond with mirror neurons. There are also negative examples, like you were saying, the people who complain all the time. We feel that because we are empathetic people. And empathy is a gift. It's a tool that we have to explore and to use in the world around us. And once we understand the power of mirror neurons, we have the ability to interact with people in ways that allow us, again, to create a moment of connection based in beauty and truth and present moment living.
It's funny, because that's one of the reasons I don't watch the news anymore. It's so depressing. And it's like, all I do is watch, this one's dying, this one was killed, this one was murdered. And I'm like, this is so depressing. And you feel that. It's like, I want to watch something happy and upbeat and, but you're 100% right, because you do feel the energy from other people and other events and things that you see, things that you hear. So I guess understanding it and learning how to navigate to the more positive side, because you can't change everybody. They are what they are. But you can put yourself in a better position to accept, acknowledge, and, move from there, I guess.
You can simply invite them to change. And you do that by staying present and grounded in conversation, being empathetic, understanding where they're coming from, but not taking on their emotions as your own. Allows you to remain in the driver's seat of your own being And that's where you can do the most good, because we all have our own unique gifts to bring to the world around us. If we give those away to others, by just simply reacting to situations instead of actively choosing situations, it's from that place of choice that we can make the most impact in the world around us.
Well said.
Thank you.
Now, what role does self-talk and mindset, particularly combating the inner critic, play and shape in how women navigate the aging process?
It's that one consistent theme is that negative self-talk, the way that we, and not everybody does this. And so it's a learned skill to overcome negative self-talk. Automatic negative thoughts just run in the background of most of our minds all the time.
Right.
You can try to take on all of them at once, but you're probably going to just curl up in a ball and cry, because for most of us, they're just hardwired in. But once the acronym for automatic negative thoughts, I kind of talk about this in the book, is ants. If you think about them as little ants running through your mind, it makes it easier to visualize the opportunity to stop them. And again, every negative thought that comes, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just simply a habit that we've gotten into. Counteract that with 2 positive thoughts, and those thoughts will become much more quiet and eventually not be running in the background of your mind, because you'll be choosing positivity over negativity through awareness.
I like how you say it's hardwired, because I've seen that even with relationships where someone just is always so negative with themselves and hates themselves, they're not perfect, blah, blah, blah. And then they find, like when you say we're here for someone who comes up to them, their new partner, and they're just saying, you're so beautiful, I love you, you're so kind. And right away, it's like, what's wrong with this person? They're trying to change me. They want something. They're up to no good. Maybe they're just seeing you for what you really are. But right away, it's how do you turn that self-belief that you've had, implanted in your head for so many years to see the beauty that they see, So it's all the process, I guess, and you just need help getting there sometimes.
If you ever are struggling to get in touch with your own beauty, or to find something positive about yourself, call your best friend. If you have a good relationship with your sister, call your sister, call someone who knows you really well, and just simply ask, what do you like about me? And really allow yourself to internalize what they're saying and receive what they're saying. I think many times we as women, we don't know how to receive a compliment. If someone says, oh, I like your hair today, we automatically are going to say, oh, it's so frizzy, or I like your dress, it's so nice. And we say, oh, I've gained so much weight. Learning to receive a compliment is one of the easiest ways that we can immediately improve our self-esteem. And choose someone you trust to practice with. Call them up and say, what do you like about me? And if they say, you are brilliant, you are beautiful, if you find yourself resisting that feedback, I'm always going to revert to curiosity. Why? I want to see myself the way you see me. Why can't I do that? And then really dive in a little bit at a time to discover and explore for yourself. Maybe you're not lost in all of this. Maybe you're just simply undiscovered, and you just don't know things about yourself that are present on a day-to-day basis that other people can see that you can't. Just get curious, figure out where that's coming from, and get that out of there.
Nice.
Yeah.
So now, what's the most significant cultural or societal change that you hope to inspire with thoughtful aging, especially regarding the way we honor and celebrate aging?
Restoring honor to the aging process through radical self-acceptance, really. We outsource validation so often in life, and we've been trained to do that and taught to do that without realizing that there's another option. We don't need to outsource validation. We have the ability to give that gift to ourselves in the truest sense that it can be given. We all have the capacity to do this, because there are moments, say you go on vacation and you're laying on the beach and you're looking at the world around you, and you're not thinking about the work projects or the kids or the husband or the friends or the drama or whatever. If we have the capacity to achieve that state of being on vacation, then we have the capacity to recreate that state of being in our day-to-day lives.
Right.
And that's really the goal, is to get back to that really centered, safe space within us and not chase that through other methods or superficial ways of being, or from other people, thinking other people can give that to us. They can't.
That's 100%, because it is true. Everybody goes on vacation. It's almost like you're away from everything, and life is great all of a sudden. But life could be great then too. You have to mentally be away from everything for 15 minutes. That's what they say. Even with people say, I'm too busy, I can't go out, I can't do that. You could take 10 minutes to just step outside for a minute and just breathe it, like you say, breathe in the fresh air, unwind, release everything, and you can find the beauty. But you're right. So your book basically guides people on the best ways to kind of reach that goal, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Very cool. So now tell us, you were saying how your book offers a lot more in terms of just, how to appreciate, beauty. But, we all know that talking to doctors sometimes they don't guide you in the best way. So tell us a little more about what additional stuff you have in your book.
I am so passionate about this because we can talk about aging and anti-aging or thoughtful aging and beauty all day long, but when it comes down to that in-office experience with your physician, we as women, I think, collectively just do what we're told.
Exactly.
And we don't have to any longer just kind of accept what we're told as the truth, because so many times we are being misguided. Your physician has had probably a maximum of 3 hours of hormone training during their entire medical training career. So how in the world are they even going to know what we're dealing with unless they've done some like research on their own to figure it out? So
which they're not doing.
No, the onus of responsibility is on us. With all of the information and resources that we have available to us, we can self-educate now. However, we get into situations in medical offices with our providers where they're saying something to us that doesn't make sense, and we don't know why. We just know it doesn't feel right. But we don't know that language to say to them, okay, I hear you, and make this make sense to me. That language doesn't exist because collectively as women, we've always taken a suppressed role when it comes to patient-provider relationships. The majority of us have. So in the back of my book, I listed out in the last chapter what to look for, that women can look for when they're in a situation with a provider. What's a red flag? If your doctor says to you, well, I don't think it's important to really talk about that. Obviously a red flag, but then what do you do about it? How do you speak to your doctor in a way that still respects them as a provider, but allows you to use your voice and honor your intuition and say, okay, I appreciate your perspective, but I'm going to need a little more information because it is important. It's important because it's important to me. And how do we develop that language together? So in the back of the book, there's a section on, if your doctor says this to you, it's a red flag, and here's why. If your doctor says this to you, this is a really good sign you probably have a good doctor. Ask more questions. In order to help us, again, self-educate and create this language that allows us to really, really be seen and heard within the realm of health and wellness.
Okay, I think that's awesome.
Yeah,
because
super important.
Yeah, like I said, so many people, the doctor just says this, and we just went through something like this with my stepdad. He was in the doctors spend 5 minutes with you. They're running all these tests, and they don't even tell us. They have like a My Chart online where we can go and see the reports. And we're actually using ChatGPT. Like, can you tell us what this means in layman's terms? Because I don't know what any of that stuff means. Meanwhile, some of it was super serious, but again, if you don't have a relationship or a way to communicate with the doctor, you just go by whatever they say. And sometimes they're not saying anything. And like you say, your health is the one at, on the plate there. And that's what's important. So you need to understand what they're saying and what they're doing and why and what your rights are and all that.
And people don't understand too, this is really important. You can ask for a longer appointment when you're scheduling. And depending on why I might be going, or if I'm taking my parents, what we're going for, when I'm scheduling the appointment, I'll say, I'm going to need 30 minutes, for this appointment. They'll tell you, oh, well, we only book in 15 minutes time slots. or say, there's a couple of things you want to talk about. I'd like 45 minutes or an hour with the doctor. They'll say, no, we can't do that, but they can do that. They just have to get administrative approval to do that. And many of them, they don't even know, the schedulers don't even know that that's an option. So if you go to them and you say, like I did this with my dad, getting him a new doctor. I know my dad. And I called to get him an appointment with a new doctor. And I said, hey, we're going to need an hour for this appointment. And they said, well, we don't do that. I said, okay, well, what do we need to do to make that happen? Because I know my father, and I know that this is what will be ultimately the most expedient for everyone, is if we can just do it all at one time. Because if he comes in there and he doesn't feel seen and heard, he's not going to come back. And I need him to come back because he's 81 and I'm taking care of him and my mom now, and I don't want to keep coming back. So what do we need to do to make that happen? When you approach these conversations, not from a defensive position, but from a problem-solving position. Okay, I understand that this is the standard 15-minute time slot. I get that. I appreciate that. However, I also know that there are ways around that. And what we're really doing right now is creating cultivating time for care, right? I'm coming in to be cared for. My dad's coming in to be cared for. And I know that I'm going to need 30 minutes, or I know that I'm going to need 60 minutes. So how can I help you make that happen? Right. Instead of, what do you mean you don't do that? This is so wrong. Yeah. I hate the medical system. Well, okay. Then you've lost all options. You're not making friends, you're making enemies at that point. And you don't need enemies in the healthcare system. It's broken enough already. No. You don't need enemies, you need friends. So approaching it from, I know what I want. I'm just going to keep working at it until I get there. And so in that situation with my dad, she went to administration. She talked to the doctor, she meaning the medical assistant. It went from the scheduler to the medical assistant. It went from the medical assistant to the doctor. It went back to the scheduler to administration. And yeah, it took a day or two to make it happen, but I got him a 60-minute appointment. Thank God. And he had all his questions answered. He loves the doctor now, and he'll go back anytime he needs to for a 15-minute appointment.
Right.
Yeah.
I love how you're explaining all that, but also how you're teaching people how to talk to the doctors and get your answers, because that's super important. So an added bonus, everybody, get this book. Awesome.
Thank you.
Now, anything else you want to talk about that we didn't touch on, and how can people find your book and all that good stuff?
I do have a thoughtful aging assessment, which people are welcome to go and take. It's a free online assessment, and it will help you guide you toward what your aging style might be. And that's really important when we're talking about being proactive and responsible for our own health and our own health care. So that's a free resource that's out there. Thoughtfulagingbook.com has other resources available. There's a PDF guide that you can use with the book that will help you with introspection and reflection. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Thoughtful Aging Book, and then of course my clinic here in the Portland, Oregon area. I'm in a little town called Tualatin. It's called Bridgeport Laser and Wellness Center. And there's really good resources on my website, bpwcenter.com, for anyone wanting to explore thoughtful aging from a more practical sense. If they want to understand more about lasers or how they can enhance their appearance. And I want to be very clear, there's no improving appearance, there's only enhancing appearance, because we are perfect just as we are. Nice. But reality is, from the age of 25 on, we do lose 1% of collagen per year as we age. So there's that aspect of reality as well.
Yeah,
so
life's going to happen whether we want it or not.
Aging is aging across the board.
Well, thank you again for being on the show. Again, that was Alina Wilson. So thanks for listening to Real Conversations with Patricia. Never miss an episode by subscribing to the channel. So thank you again.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Real Conversations with Patricia, talking with some of the most brilliant minds on their journey to success and their recommended strategies. Please leave your feedback and visit pristineadvisors.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Feel free to let me know your thoughts, suggestions, and anything else you'd like me to cover. Together, we can make success happen for all.